Okay, so I stopped hearing a bunch of bangs. So I'm guessing that mostly everyone that's going to be here is already logged in. If you guys hear a bang throughout the meeting, just ignore it. It's me. Because of the new Zoom regulations, it's going to have to notify me anytime someone joins, and I have to manually approve them. So just like bear with me there. But I'm going to go ahead and start on the technical stuff. And then our speaker should be showing up pretty soon. She has to go pick up a kid. So, oh, that might be her. Oh, man. Sorry, y'all. This is going to be a little bit chaotic. I'm learning. Okay. So first, I know a lot of you guys are starting to get your hours in. A lot of hours. You guys are earning so many hours. This is going to be a really, really good semester. SHSU is going to be really proud of me. So for other volunteer and hour opportunities, since we are getting pretty close to the semester, I think almost everybody has 10 hours, but if you don't and you just want to get more, so each meeting you attend is worth an hour. Blood drives, you are required to earn at least 1 blood drive hour, and we do have 4 left this semester, whether you're donating or you're passing out flyers. And then food donations to the SHSU food pantry. So if you have 3 items you want to donate, that's 1 hour. And then Rita B. Huff donations, 3 items is 1 hour. The Alzheimer's Association, that's going to be rolling. So it'll be $5 equals 1 hour. And then
Oh, I actually have a question about the Alzheimer's one.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
So I know that we were supposed to do like a walk or something throughout the weekend, and it got changed to like all throughout the month. So I'm just wondering if the walk that we did, that would be counted towards like our hours.
Yes. So the hour or oh my gosh, I can't talk. So the whoop, hold on, I got bangs. Okay. So whenever you guys emailed me or messaged me the miles that you walked, those count towards the hours. But whenever you want to do monetary donations, that's going to go throughout the entire semester.
Is it still okay if I can like email you what I did on the weekend?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
just send
thank
me screenshots if you did like however many miles you walked on that weekend. And then for every mile, it'll be 2 hours.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Oh man, I have to go back and share my screen. Dang, this is gonna be annoying. Sorry, y'all. Okay, going back to the hours. So we covered the Alzheimer's Association. Okay, and then STEM tutoring. If you want to tutor still, contact Denise and she'll be able to hook you up with a student. And then any other volunteering. So like, for example, so this is gonna be our philanthropy event for, I wonder if I can add people here. Dang. I don't know. Oh, can I do it? Yes. Sorry, y'all. I'm learning how Zoom works. Okay, so for the shoebox for Haiti. So because we pushed our normal philanthropy event to the spring, this was actually a really good opportunity. It was very last minute, but I still wanted to like tell you guys about it because I think it'll be important. So the shoebox for Haiti. So I did send out an email with nothing but information specifically for this event. This is just an example of like what one of my shoeboxes look like. Obviously you don't have to use a shoebox. I use the Amazon box. But so whenever you check the email, it's got a list of like items that you can donate and what you should not donate. And then also there's going to be a little sheet that you can print out to write the age and sex of the child that you're packing a box for. And then also a link to the website to pay for the shipping. It is $8 in shipping, but you will get 5 hours for making 1 box. So if you make 2 boxes, you get 10 hours right there. And then you do have to turn in the boxes no later than this Saturday, October 24th, to Isabel, and her email is ige003@shsu. So make sure you get that done if you want to. Does anyone have any questions about the shoebox for Haiti? Okay, everyone's good? I paid online. Do I need to? Okay, so if you paid online, I don't think you need to put the receipt, but I think you just need to put on that little, the little bitty sheet where it has you cross off the age and sex. There should be a box that says you paid online. Just check that off, and then I think you're good. Yay, another person. Yay. Okay, awesome. I think I got everyone approved and our speaker is here, so that's exciting. Okay, so continuing. So we do have this Saturday also a mobile food truck food drive. It'll be from 8 a.m. roughly to 12 p.m., but we always leave early. So if you're worried about staying until noon, you can leave early, but more than likely the latest I've stayed is 11. So, and then you'll get 4 hours for this if you attend. So it'll be this Saturday, get there by 8 at the Huntsville Church of Christ. And you will have to wear a mask, and then they'll provide gloves for you. And then it's gonna be like a drive-through event. So what we do is we pack up the boxes of food and then they put it in their cars. So it should be pretty fast. It went really quickly the last time. I think we left at 10:30 a.m. the last time. And then blood drive opportunities. So we get 2 hours. Oh my gosh. You guys will get 2 hours if you successfully donate red blood cells. And then if you decide to donate plasma, you'll get an additional 2 hours. And then 1 hour for trying to donate, but if you get rejected, and then an hour for every hour that you pass out flyers. The upcoming blood drives are going to be the 26th, the 29th, and then also November 2nd and November 17th. So if you haven't gotten your blood drive hour, these are the days that you can go. They will be on campus in between the life science building and the chemistry and forensic science building. So make sure to contact Denise Garcia at her email right here in case you want to pass out flyers or you can't donate for any reason. And then I just want to remind you guys about the BMO academic consulting perks. So as a Shamos member, you guys do get 5% discounts up to $900 on all of their services. And then they do help with Casper test prep and CARS test prep. So for my pre-med buddies, and we're all struggling over here, this is something that you will have to do for some schools. Some schools don't need the Casper, but a lot of them do. And BMO can help prep you for that exam. And then also another thing that they help with is the entire application process for all of these specialties. So if you're not pre-med, but you're like pre-nursing, pre-PA, or pre-pharmacy, or anything, they can more than likely help you with the application process, as well as the personal statement, interview prep, and multi-person interview prep. So that might be extremely useful for those of you that are coming up on that time. And then as always, if you have any questions, this is our contact information. So feel free to screenshot it, or you can always reach out on GroupMe, and then we'll be able to answer any questions that you have. And then I would like to welcome our speaker, Dr. Pinneri. Or is that how you pronounce it? I hope I got it right. Oh, you're muted.
You're muted.
All right, better?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yes, you pronounced it correctly.
Okay, good.
Well, thank you for having me. Oh, my dog wants to be a part of this.
Oh, he's cute.
Well, thank you for having me. So I am Dr. Pinneri. I am currently the director of Montgomery County Forensic Services, and I'm a forensic pathologist. And I got this list of questions that I will be happy to answer, and then answer any of y'all's questions that you may have. So about myself, I went to undergraduate at Louisiana Tech University. I didn't know I wanted to be a doctor at first. So I started out in biomedical engineering and decided I did not want to make robots. So I switched to a clinical health sciences discipline, ultimately got a degree in general studies because I had so much calculus and biomedical stuff. So my degree's in general studies. And it wasn't until I was working in a hospital that I decided, or that I was exposed to forensic pathology. And that's when I decided this is what I want to do. It sounds super cool. And I was just fascinated. Unfortunately, the only way to become a forensic pathologist is to go to medical school. So I applied, took the MCAT one time, swore I would never take that darn test again. And thankfully didn't have to, but I got into medical school at the University of Texas, Southwestern Medical School in Dallas. So basically the thing that most attracted me to this field is that it's kind of like solving mysteries every day. The work is just really fascinating. I read the book called Coroner. It's by Dr. Tom Noguchi, who's, I think he's 90 years old now. He's still alive, still goes to meetings, and it was just fascinating. Since then, there have been a lot of other forensic pathologist related books and TV shows and things like that, but those were not around when I went to med school. So I went to medical school to become a forensic pathologist. So I was a little bit different. A lot of people decide to do the field of pathology and then they go into forensics after that. But it was my goal, or my career goal, to become a forensic pathologist. So in order to do that, like I said, you have to go to medical school. After medical school, you choose the field of forensic pathology. And that is basically the study of diseases and disease processes. So that's a 4-year residency program where you learn how to do an autopsy, you learn how to look at tissues under a microscope, because before you can figure out what's abnormal, you have to know what normal looks like. So it's really important to get that background of just regular pathology. And then after your residency, you do a 1-year forensic pathology fellowship, and that's usually done at a medical examiner's office. And it's a super fun, exciting, fast-paced year where you're supposed to learn everything you can to be a forensic pathologist, which I tell people I am still learning every day, which is why one of the reasons I love this so much. Every day I see something new or different, and it's just fascinating. So you never stop learning. So 1 year, no way, that you can't learn it all, but you learn as much as you can. And then you go out into the real world and get to do what you finally trained to do. As a medical examiner, forensic pathologist, our main responsibilities are cause and manner of death determination and death investigation. So we will do whatever we need to do to determine someone's cause and manner of death. And sometimes that means we do a full autopsy. Sometimes that means that we can just look at the outside of them and find the external stigmata of a natural disease process, such as swelling in the feet that goes along with heart failure, or they might be jaundice, which goes along with liver failure. So there are things that we can see on the outside of the body that can tell us what's going on the inside of the body. And sometimes all we need to do is review medical records. So whatever we need to do for the cause and manner of death determination is what we'll do. I kind of went into the education and training. You have to be a medical doctor to become a forensic pathologist. As I said, an autopsy is considered a medical procedure. So you have to have a license to practice medicine in order to perform one. So you have to keep up all of the requirements for a medical license, which is continuing medical education. I'm also board certified in anatomic and forensic pathology, so I have to maintain that certification too, but it kind of goes together. So you can use the same continuing education credits for your medical license as you do for your board certification. So that's pretty good, I guess. What I love most about the job is basically that every day is different. I would not do well in a job where every day I do the same exact thing, because I probably am undiagnosed ADD or something, but I'm very distracted. But I love how unique the job is, and how every day, it doesn't matter if I have two 45-year-old people that die, and they both die in their house, and they both have heart disease or drug use, and internally they're going to look different. There's just going to be something that's totally different about each of those cases. And so that is really fascinating to me. What I dislike most about the job, there's kind of two facets to this one. One of them is that sometimes you see things that are really unpleasant and they make you kind of sad. So that is not my favorite part for sure. But when you have a good support system, both at home and within your office, then you kind of learn ways to cope with the downsides of that part of the job. We do a lot of, we talk about it amongst ourselves at work. We have colleagues that we can talk to. And sometimes you can also discuss it with your family members. But again, sometimes it's a case where you can't reveal the information. So it's not really something that you can talk to your family about. The other thing I dislike about my job would be the, I can't really say political, but I work for the government. And so I have to go to them and beg for money for our office and explain what we do and try to make sure that our office gets everything that we need. And one of those things right now is a new building. So you might hear in the news that we're getting a new building built, but despite what they say, we do need it. So those are the things that I dislike most about the job.
Quick question.
Oh, sorry.
I have a question.
Okay.
Do you sometimes get like this question a lot about like medical examiners and like TV shows, how they're always quickly diagnose like a person and it's like, oh, I know they like died by drowning or they died by this. Are you just sometimes frustrated as like a medical examiner how quickly they were able to diagnose that, or does it come down with like years of age?
On TV, how quickly they do it?
Yeah, because they usually can figure it out in like 10 minutes. Actually, they figure it out in like a minute. So
right. Yeah. Well, so you kind of have to, it doesn't frustrate me, I'll put it that way, because it brought our field into the mainstream media, basically. So everybody was interested and everybody's excited about it. But unfortunately, real life forensics and medical examiner world, things are way more boring than on TV. So they have to jazz it up a bit. So I'm not frustrated by that necessarily, but some of the things that they do on the TV shows really are not possible in real life. And so we just kind of have to manage the expectations of the family members that we work with. And I testify in court on cases, and some jurors think that we can do things that we can't do, such as determine exactly the minute somebody died if there's not somebody standing over them to pronounce them. So there's some expectation management that we have to do. But for the most part, I mean, they're entertaining shows and books, and you just take it for what it is. I don't watch a lot of them. I actually have consulted on some of them, CSI, Rizzoli and Isles, Bones. What else? Seems like there's another one. I currently do some work on a TV show called Cold Justice. That is probably the most realistic one because it's a cold case based show where we try and find answers for the families of people that died years and years ago, sometimes 20, 30 years ago. And, we try to process new evidence or look at it from a new angle, things like that. So I, help them with that. But I like that people are interested in what we do because it's a very important job. We provide closure for families. I love that we service people, not just in court, but most of what I do for families to provide closure. And I can help them with what I find, understand the death and dying process, and sometimes provide piece to them, because everyone, or some people, worry about, could I have done something? Should I have done something? And, I can help them through that process. So as far as what it's been like on my end of the COVID-19 pandemic, what a mess. So our caseload has gone up probably 25%. Initially, when the whole thing started, there weren't places for people to get tests. So a lot of people had COVID-like symptoms, but they didn't have a diagnosis. And forensic pathologists and medical examiners play a big role in public health. And so it's real important for us to get that information if we can. And so we had to bring in a lot more people to do the screening test. As far as our regular cases go, we've just kind of seen an increase in pretty much every category: homicides, suicides, drug-related deaths. Probably the thing that went down the most are car wrecks, because people weren't driving as much. But our caseload is high, much higher than, we've almost hit last year's number this month. So we're really high. We also had to adjust our schedule like everybody else. We just started letting people back into the office. We have 10 people that work in our office and handle all of the cases, and we're a very specialized skill set. So we kind of wanted to protect everyone, because if one person went down or passed it around the office, that would be a disaster. So we staggered our schedules and closed the office, basically. Didn't let anybody in unless they had to be there. Let's see, what did I struggle most with in the education? What advice do I have for you? So my favorite piece of advice that I got and that I like to share with everyone is to, no matter what you do, whether it's medicine or something else, whatever you pick, just make it sure that it's something that you like to read about. Because in medicine, you're going to have to read a lot. And if you hate reading about it, you're probably not going to want to read. And you might not be as happy as if you chose a different field. So I love reading about forensics. And so it's exciting to me still. So that's my advice for people. Just pick something that you really enjoy reading about and learning about. What I struggled most with as far as education goes, I hated biochem. I'm not gonna lie. I don't use it. The words Krebs cycle just really give me, make me want to vomit, but it's an important thing to learn. You've got to learn it to get through it. So it just wasn't my favorite thing. I'm more of a hands-on anatomy, structural kind of thing than the physiology, biochemistry part. I did work when I went to medical school a little bit. So I have a background in nuclear medicine, which is a radiology field. And so I was able to supplement a little bit of the costs and still work a little in the summer for sure. But it's hard. I was burnt out by the second year. So I just quit. I was miserable. I couldn't handle being called out in the middle of the night and then having to go to work or go to school the next day. So I ended up having to stop the working, but it was helpful to be able to do it for a little while as far as the cost of school goes. I did take out school loans. Med school was not near as expensive as it is now, but it sucks to come out of school with so much debt. And forensic pathologists in particular are trying really, really hard to help our new graduates out. And we're really in a critical workforce situation where we have maybe 600 forensic pathologists across the whole United States. Since the start of the certification process, there have only been 1,600 certified, board certified forensic pathologists. And we're running into a crisis where we don't have people to fill all the positions that we have. So we're trying to find ways that will entice people to go into forensic pathology. And one of those is student loan forgiveness. There currently is a government program that will assist you with that, because we do work for governments most of the time. And it's a government process, so it kind of sucks with all the stuff you have to do. But if you jump through all the hoops, they will eventually help you pay back your loans. There is one office in Phoenix, Arizona that does student loan forgiveness if you go to work there. So there are some options out there. As far as a work-life balance, forensic pathology is a pretty good field for being able to have an outside life. I like it particularly for that reason. When my kids were younger and we were running to soccer games and things, I was able to make a lot of them go to their school functions. But you still have a job that you have to do. It's basically daytime hours, but I'm on call a lot. And we work the forensic pathologists work every third Saturday at my current office. So in my role now, I have a little bit less of a balance because there's way more work. But you can make it however you want to make it. You can definitely have a really good work-life balance if you if that's what you want. I ended up with a pretty good undergraduate GPA with I think it was a 3.8. Not for any particular I wasn't the most stellar student, but I did good in my classes. Let's see. So our office does do some shadowing and interning. We currently have some people coming up now. We just reopened, like I said, to view autopsies. We have to balance allowing people to shadow and intern in our office with the confidentiality that's required for our caseload. So anyone that comes has to sign a confidentiality agreement, and it's not always pleasant. Today we had a not so fresh body come in, so you get what you get. We never know what we're going to have. And anyone that comes to shadow just kind of, you get what you get. It's most of the time, the people, we try not to bring people in when we have the decomposed bodies, but, it happens. Sometimes we don't know. And other times they're like, I don't care. I just want to see it. So we'll do whatever we can accommodate. It's a great job. I really, really love it. It's a long road. We spend a lot of time going to school to work with dead people, but ultimately our mission is to help the living, and we can help the living through providing closure and information on how their loved one died. We can testify in court so that somebody, that might have harmed somebody else gets punished or gets the appropriate punishment for the crime. We collect evidence for the police officers to use to help find the bad guys. And, we work with the public health departments and help track diseases. And, we're sometimes the first people that notice that, hey, things are happening. We're the ones that started noticing that, hey, when kids are in car seats or in the back seat of cars not wearing seatbelts, they're getting injured. And so then, infant car seats come around, and now there's alerts in the backs of cars to tell you that there's a kid back there, so you don't end up with a child that dies in a hot car. So all of these things kind of come out of medical examiners' offices, and people don't really realize that connection. So I think it's important to for people to understand that, we're not just working with dead bodies all the time, but we're actually, our real mission is to help the living. So anyone that has any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
So I actually have one.
Uh-huh.
So I'm currently in the process of like trying to go to med school to be a forensic pathologist. So I'm going into it for that reason as well.
Yay.
I have a slightly lower GPA than I should. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's not great. It's like a flat 3.2 if I'm if I get lucky. So I'm wondering, do you think it would be beneficial to get a degree in criminal justice if that is the route that I decide to go?
So my suggestion to you is to stay with the pre-med curriculum, because the first and most important step is getting into med school. Once you're into med school, it doesn't really matter the other stuff. You're kind of starting over again. Okay, so you just got to get into a medical school. And once you're there, then you go, you do your medical school curriculum. And then that might decide what programs you can get into for your residency. But basically, once you get in, you're starting over. So just concentrate on getting into a med school, do what you need to do for that. And a 3.2 isn't terrible. I mean, please don't worry about that. There will be a med school out there that would be interested. You got to, the more things that you can do outside of just the classroom thing, I think is something that medical schools are looking at now with volunteer hours and interning. So those are things that will just kind of bolster your application.
Okay, so whenever you go through like the residency matching process, they don't look at basically what you did in your undergrad, like what degrees you got. They just focus on how you're performing in med school.
For the most part, I mean, that's the most important thing. Like I said, I had a degree in general studies because I couldn't make up my mind what I really wanted to do. And that's okay, because, you're like 20 years old. So from my experience, they didn't necessarily go back that far. When you go into the pathology match program, pathology is not as competitive as, say, ophthalmology or orthopedic surgery. So, as long as you do well, you pass all your steps in medical school, then you should be fine to get into a pathology curriculum. The numbers of people going into pathology in general are decreasing. And ultimately that decreases the number of people that will come out into forensic pathology too. So it's not as competitive. So yeah, if you have a 3.2 in your undergrad, then that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. And then I hate, this is going to be kind of sort of, I don't know if this is like a rude question. So because there are so little forensic pathologists, you said there were 600 licensed?
Yes.
So because it's not a saturated market, does that mean that the pay is slightly more than average, like what you would expect, or is it less because you are in a governmental position?
Yes and yes. So over the years, because there are so few of us, the pay has gone up quite a bit. And that's been a good outcome of the workforce shortage, I have to admit. However, you are working for government agencies, so the pay is not as good as a private practicing pathologist in some places, but most places these days are paying quite well. Some of the starting salaries are more than I made with 10 years experience now. So they're starting, some of the starting salaries are $175,000. It just depends on the location. Some of those are trying to draw people in because it might not be the best place to work, but hey, you work there for a couple of years, sock away some money and go somewhere that you want to work, and maybe not get paid as much. But yes, the pay isn't as good as a private practice pathologist, but it has gotten much, much better over the years because of the shortage. And the other thing is because you're a government employee, you do have government benefits. So the healthcare, the malpractice insurance is usually part of your job. For private practice physicians, malpractice insurance can be very expensive. You get time off and holidays, and in the state of Texas, they have a really, really awesome retirement program. So there's lots of other benefits that go along with it.
Okay, thank you. And then there is a question.
It's always good to ask about pay. It's not don't look at it as a bad thing, because you got to eat.
Yeah, like I was raised on like the polar opposite mindset of you're not supposed to ask, but it's one of those things that like you can't really find a good solid answer on the internet.
Right.
So I had to ask. And then there also is a question in the chat that's asking about the process of getting into shadowing.
Okay, let me see. Okay, what is the process? Okay. So it's pretty informal at our facility. So our administrative manager, Heather Reyes, is the one who kind of juggles all of those shadowing opportunities. Again, we're a small office. We can't have too many people at the same time. We can get people that come, 2 at a time. We really want people that are interested in the field, not just interested to, see a dead body. But, sometimes that's important for people to understand and see what an autopsy is, because there's a lot of misconceptions about it. And even in medical school curriculums, I will tell you that most medical schools don't think forensic pathology is the best field to go in, because they really want people to go out and practice primary care, pediatrics, internal medicine, family medicine, things like that. So you won't find a whole lot of encouragement in most medical schools to become a forensic pathologist. But again, that's something that we're working on. If you want a lot of information about medical examiners and forensic pathology, the organization, let me see if I can put it in the chat, is the National Association of Medical Examiners. And I just put their website on there. It's thename.org. And they have a lot of information about the field. They have, you can look at all the current job openings. Literally, you could go anywhere right now. There are so many openings all over the country. And, work for a couple of years and move on. What we're finding is happening is people are stealing people from other offices, which is what I totally did. And I have 3 forensic pathologists in my office, and I stole them all from Harris County, which is where I came from. And it's, one chief medical examiner that I'm friends with told me that half the time he spends trying to recruit people to work there, and the other half he spends trying to keep the people that he has. So it's a tricky balance these days, because the job offerings are so plentiful right now, and there's a lot of zeros behind the starting pays now.
I had a question.
Yes.
So I imagine that over the course of your career, you've seen some pretty benign things, like someone dead in their bed from a heart attack, into some more disturbing, possibly gruesome stuff to some folks. Personally, I've seen a decent amount of stuff just being in rural Texas, and being rather, some people say unfortunate. I find myself, I we'd rather say fortunate, just being able to see it. But how did you, say, get over the initial hump of, oh my God, the person just had their arm torn off and now I can see shards of bone everywhere, or something like that? Just trying to get over like the initial shock of like seeing these gruesome ends.
That's a good question. I can just say that it's totally different when you're the person working on the case as opposed to the person just kind of observing it. Because you're looking at it from a scientific and a medical standpoint as opposed to a observational standpoint. So while you might be seeing somebody's arm hanging off and from or disarticulated from the rest of them, I'm looking at it as what blood vessel was ruptured and did they die immediately from this? Did it happen before death or after death? So there's so many things that I'm looking at to, I guess, distract from the emotional side from it. So you really do have to kind of separate this, the emotional side from the professional and scientific side. And, for some people it's hard, for some people it's easy. And for some cases, you really can't do it. So you just kind of, talk about it with your friends and move on. And there's a lot of discussion about the health and wellness of forensic pathologists and death investigators. And it's not really something we talked about before because you just kind of sucked it up. That was kind of the thing, just suck it up, suck it up. Well, we realized that maybe sucking it up all the time isn't such a great idea. And so there are wellness programs out there and more attention to the process of self-care for people in this field. Personally, I'm trying to get some sort of comfort animal at our office, but so far we haven't figured that out yet.
Get a hedgehog.
Yeah.
Get a hedgehog.
Yes. Well, we were looking at a rabbit, so
that would do it.
Hedgehog. We'll have to check out the hedgehogs. That could be pretty easy too.
And then I kind of sort of just have something to add off of that because I don't think a lot of students know this. I'm not sure if they're going to do it this next summer, but I know the anatomical research facility up here, also known as the Body Farm, they do have summer classes for juniors and seniors if you want to kind of solidify if you're not sure whether you can handle death or not, because then you get hands-on direct experience with a dead body. So granted, they're a bit more decomposed than what you would probably expect at a medical examiner's office, but it can basically solidify, okay, can you handle this? Can you separate the emotion from the job, basically?
Right.
I had a question. So whenever you went to testify in court and provide like an expert testimony, what was it like explaining, explaining it to people who weren't like as knowledgeable as you on forensic pathology? Like you're talking to people in court.
Oh, that's a great question. And I love that question for a couple of different reasons. One of them is because forensic pathologists kind of get the bad rap that, we go into this field because we don't like to talk to people. But the reality is that we have to be excellent communicators because we talk to people at their absolute worst times in their lives and share some really bad news. And so we have to be really good communicators. But the other part of that is we have to take a really complex autopsy and autopsy findings when we testify in court and explain them to 12 people we've never seen before and we have no idea what their background is and try to get them to understand what we're talking about. So you really have to figure out the best way for you. And it can be very difficult. And there are some cases where honestly, I feel so bad that I have to tell the jurors and show them pictures of some of my cases, because I wouldn't want anyone to have to see that. But the reality is that's the way our justice system works. And in order for someone to be convicted of a crime, they have to understand what the crime is. And that's what we'll tell them. But it can be very difficult. You basically have to just break it down into as small of things as you can. But usually they get it. I've done it enough where I know when I'm connecting with the jury and when I need to do a little bit better explanation. So you just really have to break down what you're talking about in the best way that you can. But some things are very complex, and it takes more time. So you hope that you have a good lawyer that's asking you the questions. Sometimes they suck and they leave you high and dry, and you're just kind of like, yeah, that's not really what we were supposed to be talking about. But it's a skill that you just learn over time. There's no real training for it outside of your forensic training.
Before,
Thank
did you
you.
have, sorry, Joseph. Before, did you have any teaching experience? Like, did you tutor during college? Did you tutor anyone during med school? Were you a teaching assistant whenever you
No,
were?
actually, I did not until my pathology residency. So I was one of the chief residents as I went through, and I was super interested in forensics, and so I got to do a lot with that in the pathology residence program that I chose. So I did get to teach in that manner. When I was in Harris County, we had a forensic fellowship training program, and so you do teaching there. But I do love to teach, and I want more people to go into the field, so I'm trying to reach out as much as I can to get that going. But I didn't get the opportunity when I was in college. And I don't think I was smart enough in med school. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you. I had another question just in general about pathology, just because I'm interested in pathology and just general, not specifically forensics, but just in general pathology. I guess mine really is just, what is that like in medical school? Just because I know that it's a lot of viewing stuff under the microscope and knowing like how how diseases progress and how they even occur in the first place. But like beyond that, what is there?
So real world pathology, usually you will work in a hospital or a clinic. There are a lot of different subspecialties in pathology, such as dermatopathology, neuropathology, cytopathology, surgical pathology, which is the most common one. Surgical pathology is probably the one that most people do. And so basically what you're doing is you're looking at specimens and samples that have been taken from patients, whether with biopsies or in surgery, and you're giving a diagnosis. Is it cancer? Is it not cancer? Should they have taken it out, or was it completely fine? Those are the types of things that most hospital pathologists do. They also, every lab test that you have done is run by a pathologist in a lab. So that's who's going to be running your hospital labs, your outpatient labs. So that's clinical pathology more than anatomic. So that's something that they will do. So there's a huge number of things you can do just within pathology.
Thank you again.
Yeah.
I had a question, Dr. Pinneri.
Sure.
What would you say it's like the pace? How is the pace different from working in a big city like Houston and like Harris County than it is working in Conroe?
Well, so number wise, we are, much lower than Harris County. But the difference between a large office and a small office is the workload is different for different reasons. So in the smaller office, you do more things. So in Harris County, I had people to do the death certificates. I had people to do all kinds of things that I don't have with 10 people working in my office. So there's a lot more work to be done. There just isn't the number of cases. However, we're probably going to do about the same number of cases per person in our office as Harris County is doing. So they just have, 20 pathologists versus 30. And so we're going to do about, they're going to do a little bit more, but we're just as busy. We'll put it that way. It's just a different kind of busy. The pathologists there spend more time just cutting or doing the autopsies. I spend a lot of time talking to families, doing the autopsies, reviewing medical records, getting the medical records. So there's a lot more things that I do on a day-to-day basis that I didn't do there. The other thing with the large versus a small office is that the ancillary help that we had at the Harris County office, we had anthropologists, we had neuropathologists, we had all kinds of support people to help us with our cases, where in Conroe, we don't have that. And so we have to find those people when we need them. So sometimes, if we have somebody with a weird brain disorder, I've got to find a neuropathologist to come and help us out with that. Started out, I thought it was going to be less busy, but it's not.
I have a follow-up question. Would you say the types of cases are different?
Oh, yes. Yes, I would. That's a great question. The types of cases are greatly different between Harris County and Conroe. We see a lot more natural disease deaths in Conroe and drug-related deaths. Harris County has tons of drug-related deaths too, but they have a lot more homicides. They have a lot more shootings, a lot more violent-related deaths than Conroe does.
Thank you so much.
Like insensitive, but which one of those do you prefer? Like, do you prefer working more on the homicide cases versus the natural death, or do you prefer the natural death?
Oh gosh, that's hard. It depends. There are some natural deaths that I like more than others, but sometimes they're really hard to figure out. It's really hard to diagnose cancers after somebody's died because we don't have all the special things that hospital pathologists have to diagnose tumors. So that can be really challenging. Honestly, tracking bullets isn't super difficult. But I really like blunt trauma. I think it's really cool, and I find that the most interesting. I like gunshot wounds too, but bullet went in here, came out here, and it went through the things in between. So it's not super difficult. Blunt trauma is a little bit more to it. It can have patterns, and you can find what the object was that caused the injury. So I just think it's super cool. I also do unfortunately, I like pediatric deaths, and have done a lot with child abuse. So can't say it's my favorite, but I'm just unfortunately good at it. So those are the things I like. But honestly, I like it all, because you never know what you're going to get. One drug death isn't the same as another. Today I found a baggie in somebody's stomach. Who knew, right? So I like it all.
And then I know you kind of sort of touched on this a little bit earlier, but in regards to like med school and kind of sort of being like the oddball out, would you say that the application and interview process was a little bit harder because you were trying to explain like you're going in it for the like necessarily the death instead of prolonging life, or was it easier?
Well, I didn't tell them, because even though I knew that it was what I wanted to do, I wanted to keep an open mind also. So my recommendation is to not be solidly locked into that necessarily. Make sure that you know that you're open to other things, and because you don't want them to not select you because of that. I don't know if that's a thing or not. When I applied to med school, they were still asking questions like, why don't you want to do women's work? So I don't know exactly what the interview process and things are right now for it, but my recommendation is to go with something that's current, because you could turn it towards public health with the COVID stuff. You can turn it towards, helping cause a manner of death in, police-related cases. So there are avenues that you can take to make it more, to show that you're really trying to help the living as much as you are working with the dead. So, if it gets down to it, you want some pointers specifically, I'll be happy to help you. But I think it's good to make sure that you're not locked into something, so you don't make them limit you, I guess, because I'm just not sure what the med school market is for forensics. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And then kind of sort of like tailing off of that. So whenever you went through like your you have to go through like all the basic clinicals and stuff in med school. How did you like go about that? Like especially whenever you're going into like working with like for example, I don't really care for children, but I have to go through a peds rotation. So how would you like suggest like getting past kind of sort of that hurdle of, man, I don't really want to do this, but I have to do it?
So I'm just going to say you got to kind of have to suck it up. I mean, there are hoops you got to jump through, just like having to take the SAT to get into college. There are just things you just got to do. And there are certain things that I still don't like, and I know I still have to do. I was telling the story of how I hate mucus, like snot. That's just disgusting to me. And so when I was in medical school, some guy was coughing a lot, and this big loogie came out, and I literally ran from the room. So you're just going to have to do things that you're not going to like. But you learn how to find ways to do them in a way that's acceptable to you. And just to get through it. I'm not a big fan of orthopedics as far as, having to reduce fractures and stuff like that, but I had to do trauma surgery, and that was what we had to do in the ER, and you just kind of figure out a way to muddle through it. But there's going to be stuff that you're going to have to do. Even now, even in any job, you're going to have to do things that you don't like to do, whether it's medicine or working at a grocery store or something. There's going to be parts of it you don't like, and you just kind of have to deal with it.
Yeah. And then, sorry, I keep asking like a ton of questions. So I'm guessing that you probably do like a lot of administrative work too.
I do. I have a lot of administrative things that I have to do. I have to go and, like I said, beg for my budget every year. But I have an amazing administrative manager, Heather, in our office. And so she takes a huge part of that burden from me. and allows me to focus on the fun stuff.
Cool, thanks.
I'm going to put my email in the chat if anybody is needs to reach out or sorry, I can't type and see at the same time. I'll put the wrong email and somebody's gonna be really mad when they get all these random forensic emails. Okay, yeah, all right, there. So email me if you have an interest or want to learn more, are interested in shadowing, then I can get you to Heather, or you can reach out to Heather specifically in our office, and you know, we'll help you however we can.
Awesome. Does anybody else have any questions? No? Okay. Well, that was an awesome meeting. Thank you so much for taking your time to do this. I know it was super last minute. I was gonna have a forensic anthropologist come and talk, but I lost her contact information and I couldn't locate it. Like I had no way to contact her. So
Well,
I'm
if
really
you need one, let me know, because I know a bunch. So
okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. It was really, really good. You gave some really good information.
Yes, thank you.
awesome. Well, y'all contact me if you have any other questions, and good luck with everything.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Thank you, ma'am.
Not Dr. Pinneri.
Okay, so I don't know if it happened to you guys too, but my Zoom froze in the middle and it kicked like half the people out. So I have a list of people who got kicked out. I'll make sure that they get on your list, Tyler, because I don't know what happened.
Okay, I took a picture earlier before like people were kicked, so.
Okay, good, because it like erased my chat and everything. I got back in and I was like, what in the world just happened?
Uh-oh.
Hey, Tyler,
Yep.
what picture did you take